Hi, everybody. Welcome into the room. This is the Women in Place webinar with Placemaking US. We are so excited to get into this conversation. If you know anything about the state of the world, you know this is a topic that we need to be getting into today. We have some incredible speakers from all over the world for you all to tap into a conversation with today. We have our host here, Placemaking US, to get into it, but I wanted to welcome you all into the room. And first, let's take a moment for this Mentimeter because y'all went in. This is great. So the question was, what's the first word that comes to mind when you think about women's experiences in public spaces? So as you can see, caution is definitely unsafe. Like this is already super telling for the kind of conversation that we're going to have today. Uncomfortable, vigilant, safety aware, alert. I do see some positive things: joyful, freedom, diversity, friendly. But I see a lot. I see a lot of overlooked awareness, the male gaze, caregiving, eyes on the street, limited, scary and beautiful. I love that it's right next to each other. Secondary, intersectional, enlivening, excluded. You all, thank you so much for taking the time to participate. I feel like this is definitely centering us and what this topic is going to be about. So my name is Fatima. I am here with Placemaking US to be your moderator for today. I'm also joined by the incredibly talented Lily, who is going to be our visual recorder today, but she is also a placemaker, a community developer, an urban design expert. She will be mapping out our conversation live so that when we finish, we will have something represented.
Hey everyone, nice to have you all here. Excited for this conversation, and we will dive into it in a little bit. Okay.
Yes. Awesome, awesome. Well, without further ado, I'm going to pass it over to Ryan Smolar with Placemaking US, and I will stop sharing my screen.
Hi, everyone. I'm Ryan Smolar from Placemaking US and super excited to be here at our Women in Place webinar. You know, this idea to do this event started when I was walking around Quito with Daniela Chacon Arias, who was the vice mayor of Quito. And she was showing me all of the work she did in the city to make it more inclusive for women and through a gender lens. And it was so impressive. And I had to think about all the times I've been around the world at other placemaking events and walking with practitioners and hearing about the stories about women and placemaking, the United Nations frameworks, the work Nourhan is doing, hearing about it in Japan when they went back from our global summit in Mexico and said they were surprised to hear the state of women around the world. And it made me think that I haven't heard much conversation in our networks about women in place in the US. And so, as Daniela is actually here and has just arrived in the last few days to start her Loeb Fellowship at the Harvard Graduate School of Design and MIT, we thought it would be a wonderful way to welcome her, but also to raise the voices of many women who are working around the world on this topic. It's been so enlightening to get to meet them and hear about the critical issues that they're addressing using placemaking. And it makes me so happy when our field isn't just necessarily about feeling good, but is about human rights and really changing the lives of people all around the world. So we're very grateful to have a global audience here, a lot of sharing, a lot of ideas, and let this continue to light that bright torch, explaining this issue and making it more well known and more frontline for everybody. So I'm going to hand it off to Daniela to kick us off, and then we'll go from there.
Thank you so much, Ryan. Hi, everybody. I am really happy to be here with all of you, especially with all of the other co-panelists. It's an honor to share this space with you. And thank you so much, Ryan and Fatima, for organizing this. I am glad it came out of a walk around Quito. This is amazing. And now I'm living in the US for a while. I just moved a couple of days ago. So I'm really excited to, have this opportunity to share a little bit of the work that I've done, but especially I think what the challenges are still. I started this whole process back in 2014 when I was elected city councilor and appointed vice mayor of Quito. I was the second woman to be vice mayor of my city in like 500 years, which is not a really good thing. And we've never had a woman mayor. Yet, hopefully soon. But one of the things that it was amazing to me when I started this whole thing, and I don't think I understood it at first, the impact of it. But I was always sitting in rooms with mostly men. And I know that this has changed quite a bit. And it's not necessarily like that anymore. It's been 11 years, a little bit more than from that time. But like public transportation, design of spaces has usually been very masculine. And so I remember being all the time surrounded by men, mostly engineers, and mostly old. And I was very young at that time, and I heard all of these amazing things about infrastructure, and about safety in terms of having cameras and having security guards and all of these things. And I was just thinking, this is not for me. I am not really feeling represented by all of the things that these people are saying that they're going to do in our public transportation, in our public spaces. I felt that my voice was, not only my voice as Daniela, but my voice as a woman was not being heard. And so I would tell them, this is amazing, but it's not enough. We get harassed in public spaces, we get harassed in public transportation. And if we are thinking of a city and of a transportation system and public spaces that really are safe, because everybody had the safe, word in their mouth all the time, I said, it's not, we need to think about women's needs. And that's how it all started for me. And I'm happy to say that in 11 years, I've seen quite a bit of changes in Quito and in other cities in the world. For sure, there are more women, being decision makers, more women using our voices and saying, design for women is different than design for men. Our experience walking in the city and using public transportation is different just because we're women. And let alone when we're mothers. I became a mom a few years ago, and of course my perspective on the city changed quite a bit, because now I had a kid that I had to take care of, and I was really much more afraid of using public spaces with him than when I was alone as a woman. And so just bringing those voices to the design table, to a very inclusive and meaningful participatory process. I think one of the things that for me has been most important, I left public office in 2019, and then I co-founded a nonprofit called Tandem. And we specialize in bringing, citizens together with their local government so that they can work together for the local government to really respond to people's needs. And one of the things that we specialize is in participatory processes that are meaningful. And placemaking is about participation, and participation needs to be wide. And we have to understand that my experience as a woman at that point in 2014, when I was vice mayor, was completely different to the experience of other women in my city, and that I had to recognize that I also came from a privileged background in my own city, and that if I was going to represent, other voices of women in my city, then I needed to really understand what voices were those and what they were saying to me. And so through an open, wide participatory process, we were able to gather in the different spaces and projects that we implemented, those different views, those different ideas, those different experiences. What was for a woman living in the urban periphery to take, public transportation and go work in the other side of the city to a rich neighborhood because he was a domestic paid worker. And then also working with informal markets. Women are very represented in informal markets. And so trying to understand what are their journeys and how they can use the public space while they're selling their goods, because they're selling their goods in the public spaces. And we need to understand that the system has made them have no other options. And so if we just think about a public space that needs to be clean and nice and perfect, then we are going to miss, what are the things that make a public space really lively and responding to women's needs. And that usually is for, underprivileged women, usually with domestic responsibilities, unpaid domestic responsibilities that the governments are not responding to and not giving, social services and care services. Then they are going to be bringing, the kids and the adults and the disabled and the older and the elderly to those spaces where they work. And so we need to think about a space being I'm sorry, I'm forgetting the word in English, but being something that really can care for everybody. And so that's how we've focused our work from local government now to civil society, now to academia for a while. But the idea is precisely that, how we can establish participatory processes that really makes us understand what are the different needs, understand that every need is different, and that we are able to include all, and I'm just finishing, and that we are able to include all of those voices when we're designing a city, whether it's a public space, a public transportation, or any other infrastructure in the city. Thank you.
Daniela, that was amazing. I'm literally just making sure to type all of these so that when we go back, we recognize those. Just seeing those pictures alone, I feel like was so inspiring. That was incredible. And we hear it over and over when we have spaces that include everybody, that everybody comes. And I love that you specifically called that out. And what was the word that you were looking for in Spanish? Because the care comes through, but I feel like sometimes it doesn't come on all the way.
Acogimiento.
Ooh, yeah.
I don't know how to
Care is probably the best, yeah. A holding completely of, yes, I love that. And I think the more we have spaces that can hold people completely, the more the spaces will reflect people completely. So I love that. And I love the work that you do. And welcome to the US. I'm sorry for the times, but we are very grateful to have you. You did a great job. Well, next up, we're going to hear from Nourhan. I'm excited to hear about what you have to share today as well.
Trying to share my screen. Hello, everyone. So happy to be in the US and that part of the world because I'm tuning in from Amsterdam. So I am, this is dinner time here, but so happy to be sharing this Women in Place with all co-panelists. I'm not going to take long, but I'm going to say snippets about the Gender City, our organization. I co-founded in Amsterdam. Actually, we are based since 2019. I'm sharing some of our socials. We are very active and you can always follow our work through our socials. I'm gonna go back maybe at the end. So we basically work on the intersection of community, urban design, placemaking, but more predominantly women. So we work with women and girls communities in different parts of the world with our global network that we exist in more than 100 cities or all around the globe in what we call a very much learning experience and journey through how women and girls live, commute, work, and be in public spaces in cities. So we very much work on mobility and how it can be more feminized. So we call it feminizing the commons too. And we work very much with the arts, culture, and how it can integrate with women and girls communities, help make places feel like home, places to belong to. And the feminist placemaking, our very much pride and a very upcoming project early this year, we started it to gather and connect and promote for feminist design in general. So these are some of the projects undergoing. We very much advocate for physical activity in the built environment, and we are partnering with Run Her Way here in the Netherlands with women and girls runners communities. So physical activity is something that we cherish, and the right to actually exercise in the public. Let me take you back in time a bit because I think mid my journey, I call myself a feminist ever since growing up, since 6 years old. And when I realized in urban design, reading all the Jane Jacobs books, and realized that there is something that is called feminist geography. And that was when I founded the Gender City in 2019 and started reading everything like crazy. And I decided to write a book about it, the Gender City with the same name. I did a questionnaire of how cities keep failing women with the idea, and we basically basically work that your city has a gender and it's a white, able-bodied, heteronormative, patriarchal young male, and we are dismantling gendered cities one city at a time. This is some of the back of my book. So, How Cities Keep Failing Women was a questionnaire online and offline with very much intersectional responses came through. And I felt very much obliged to change the narrative, but as well very much related to many of the testimonies that I've heard between. Social infrastructure, even the right to be serene in public spaces. I call the right to exist and to leisure, and how spaces can be not a place for, as we have seen, like caution and hypervigilance, but a place to thrive for women. And this is, I think, as vital. Until we reach this, we are not really reaching the right to the city for everyone. So this is as well here where you can purchase the book, read more about how cities keep failing women, and this deep analysis I have done into what are the mental maps and how, as women, we navigate cities with a different cognitive aspects, and navigating these cities with our own maps, calling some zones fear zones, safe zones, no-go areas, and what I call it's the wisdom of women and girls communities, and very much contextual in different parts of the world. And this is why we realized that we need to even map it through the FEM Urban Atlas, our mapping tool, building on the wisdom of women and girls communities and what are the barriers that they encounter. And 2 years ago, I realized that not a lot of people are working on this topic, and we need to gather everyone around. The FEM.DES is our global network, as I mentioned, and this is how you can join from your different city around the globe. We have an established chapters of 35. Some of them are staggered all around the globe, very little in the US. I would love to connect more. We have Chicago only represented, and these are from Bogota, and we have very active Bogota, Mexico City chapter, now Gdansk in Poland, and Berlin, Paris. We work as well on the intersection of sustainability and how care, infrastructure, and urban resilience in general is a feminist issue, and how women and girls communities are on the forefront of any disaster. And the topic of like the concept of gentrification that was as well mentioned in the book, and it's a framework on how it can be used positively and how it can be as well a negative or a flashy word that now I see many people are using, what I call add women and stir women as a pinkwashing mechanism in urban firms. Like, we are doing something feminist, we are doing good stuff, but not really participatory as we want it to be. And this is the next book. So I'm all about the dark now, commuting after dark. And it is the same as How Cities Keep Failing Women, but How Cities Keep Failing Women After Dark. We've been talking a lot with nightmares, people who work with light, communities after dark, and how, as I mentioned, women need to not only survive, but to thrive in public spaces, and let alone after dark, which always has been a challenging. We have done the WET series as well 2 years ago, research project about and gathering data from different parts of the world. This is from Amsterdam. But these actually testimonies from 300 people are all around the globe, and we have a lot from the US and Latin America coming back. And 97% surveyed of the women said that they felt unsafe. Some of them even let go of the bike and used subsidized public, not public transport, but a taxi or an Uber. So we talk a lot about the last mile, the places where people and women wait for public transit and how it can be solved. And we think that mobility is a fundamental human right. It's the access to employment and thriving, as you mentioned, in cities, and how we can make it safe for everyone and accessible. So this is the questionnaire, and the FemDark stations are our FEM.DES hubs that we gathered real voices. We call it human data, not only 97%, but real testimonies from people in different parts of the world. This is from London, and we have a very active chapter in London too. And we came up with a report. Everything is on our website, actually, and we're
You're good. You're good. Keep wrapping up.
Yes, I mean, we have more than 500 articles, many reports, 5 ongoing projects on ground, working with local communities to change the narrative, and most importantly, trying to disseminate the knowledge that we have been working on all these years with the Feminist Placemaking Program that you can see as well on our website. We are looking for organizations, partners, universities to come with us in this next adventure with the FEM.DES Academy and the FEM.DES Knowledge Bank that we are gathering, as I mentioned, all the knowledge to be accessible for everyone. And this is the first time I'm teaching feminist spatial courses here in Amsterdam, and it's the first time that has ever been taught. So this needs to be taught more often, and this needs to be disseminated, and this is our goal. So reach out and connect on our website or social media or Instagram, and you will find a lot about the Feminist Placemaking Project. And we have partners like the Placemaking X, the Place Institute, Equal Sorry, like from all over the world. So yeah, join on, tune in, drop a line. This is it. Thank you. We want
That
more
was awesome.
from the US, please. Very little from the US.
That was beautiful. And Nourhan, please feel free. I was dropping some of the links that I had, but please feel free to follow up. And please, I saw some great movement in the chat about Chicago answering the call. So get connected. And if you're in other places and cities, we need to get the US represented and all over the world, hopefully to get on this map and get that going. All right, next up we have Farhana. I'm excited. We already had somebody teasing out your presentation in the chat. So go for it.
So thank you everyone who has joined. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, based on where you are from. So I'm from Bangladesh, and I'm working with a very non-glamorous issue like toilet, very important, and I have started to solve my own problem, because being a I have kept the title Flushing Out Fear to Move in the City, actually. So I'm not sure how many of you who has joined has the similar experience like me. So I thought I'm a very smart woman because I have found a way. Nobody taught me, or I have seen my mom, my friends, female colleague who had done the same thing. Before going out of your home, you will not have enough water. You will not drink enough water. Or if you have to use it outside, so you will not finish your work and you will come back to your safe place. So that's what we do. Because our cities, our towns, our public spaces did not thought much about us or didn't think it's much important. So based on our survey, what we have found, 90% of women in Dhaka, they drink less water to avoid dirty toilets. So we started at 2016. It was 10 years back. During that time, around for 20 million people of Dhaka only had 50 good quality, 50 or less than 50 good quality toilet. Right now, the number has increased around 100, but it's not enough. So this was the scenario, this was the current, still at some places we don't have good toilets, which means you have less freedom to move, which you have the interruption in your work or in the place where you are going. And if you are having your period or if you have your children with you, so situation, or just imagine what you will do. And to solve this we started, let's build toilet. And then we started thinking, okay, so building toilet is not the issue. We have enough toilet. And then let's start how we can make it business-wise or maintenance-wise, operation-wise sustainable. So we do build toilet and also we do maintain it. And how we do that, I mean, design is the very easiest part, I would say. It's the easiest job. You can do the drawing, how you can make sure what sort of features are needed, what is the community need, who will use it, and how many chambers you can provide. Those are the very easiest thing. But how you will maintain it, how will keep it up and running for the people who are using it, how can make sure women, children, or people whose voices are not usually heard, you can make sure they are using it, they're those are affordable. So that was the main challenges for us, or throughout the years, we are working to make our toilets accessible to everyone. When Daniela was talking about the city, or she was the only woman in the policy making things, I feel like it's the same thing for me. I had to talk all the men sitting there, and they're doing the policy for women, though they don't know what we really need. And when Nourhan talked about like Amsterdam is not safe, and I was thinking, oh, I have been there, but I haven't felt in that way, because for me, Bangladesh is the most unsafe, or the cities or the towns in other places. So I hear we all had the similar things. All over the world has some sort of similarities. So I'm very glad that we are connected right now. I have learned a lot. So what we have found, why women are not using it, because we don't have women attendant, or people who is taking care of is sometimes male. They are gauging in a way so that women in Bangladeshi women, they don't feel comfortable. So this is a very basic thing. Most of our toilets that are maintained by us, we have make sure women are there so that they could share their need. At the same time, we have introduced technology. So in Netherlands or some other parts of the world, you will find a lot of sensor-based technology to keep the toilet up and running. But in the context of Dhaka, those technologies are not really affordable for the people who we are serving. So we need to customize it. We need to make it efficient, cost-effective, so that we could provide the service to everyone. So we have manual operation, and we also have the technology to get the data, who are using it, how many women are coming, in which area most of the women are coming, or which chamber are using most, so that we could take better decision, better management decision. One other thing, what we have found in our case, in the case of Bangladesh, most of the toilets were not up and running because it doesn't have a proper business model. So government only focused on building toilets rather than how it will be managed. And in some cases, they didn't have them, as they didn't have the model. So they don't have enough fund to operate it. So the infrastructures were there, but it was not up to the mark. So I just want to show few photos like what happened earlier before we taking over, and people could not go there. And after a few months, the right side photos are like when we took the operation. Shops were opened. This is also one is our previous renovation and when we took over the charge. And this is also one of the photo that I want to share, like that photo and that story. Like when we started our first toilet in a market, we met all those men. They were from the market committee, and they told us we don't need any women toilet here because women are not coming here. Though they had 100,000 women are coming to their market, but they were not using it because it was not in condition to use. And after 6 months of operation, they came to us if we could help them to build the male's toilet, we could renovate it and we could operate it. And this is a photo. They invited us to have a snack with them. And they often invite us at different occasions. So it's not only about the infrastructure, it's not only about the policy. Sometimes you need to show them some model to gain trust. And sometimes community will help you to scale, to provide the service to the people. So this is all from me. Few photos, what happened earlier and what is happening when we took over. So the garbage area and the toilet, and later other things happened, like few more shops started, even food shops started just right after the toilet, where before people were not being able to use it. So thank you all. I'm here connected. You can connect me through our page, our website. Yeah, thank you.
That was beautiful, Farhana. Thank you so much. That was truly incredible. I loved hearing about your project. I think, unfortunately, if anybody has ever done participatory work or grassroots work overall, we hear that all the time that no, you don't know, you don't know. And sometimes we have to do it outside the system and prove, yes, we do know and look at the tangible benefits. So your story is so inspiring, and thank you for the work that you do. Next up, we have Kirsty. Please go ahead and share your screen. We're excited to hear from you.
Morning. My name is Kirsty Little, and I am British, but I'm based in America in DC. And my projects are art-based. I do fine art, and then I also do community-based art. And most of those areas, I try to cover works that support women and women-based issues. In this particular project we're going to talk about, it's during COVID, I went out with my daughter because there wasn't anything to do. And we went window shopping, and we discovered this area of shops down in Friendship Heights in DC was all abandoned, and they generally had these stickers in front. And I would contact many, many different places that had big vinyls on the windows. I'd contact the real estate agents and say, hey, could I put some art in them? Because I was running an art group at the time, which had 180 artists who were sitting in their homes with slews of art. And finally, the gentleman who rang this one, Jad Donahue, he, excuse me, he said yes. And he gave me a year lease on this series of windows, which is 6 windows. So I went in with my group and we reclaimed them. So this is the overview of the windows at night. It's the whole strip there that you see. And I actually now have all the way to the far corner, which you can't see. I got some new ones a couple of weeks ago. And this is what they look like after my group had gone in and painted them all grey. So that was a good starting point. And then I curated my first show. So for me, that really pushed me into a new area because I was an artist and the chair of this art group, but I'd never curated. So it gave me a chance to personally expand. My background is in circus, so I have big visual directorial images, but I never really thought of, well, I've discovered more and more ways where my worlds cross over between circus and art. And then this was one of my early curatorial projects that I put in. And the window where my little cursor is here, this was about Ukraine. This is one of the artists that did it about Ukraine. And there was a general political theme going on here. And then it came to a couple of years later, I've been doing this. So the feedback that I've had from the public has been fantastic. This was a dead area that you had to walk. There's a big doctor's building here and the rest of Friendship Heights over here, and there was this like block of black windows, and when we first got there they were all full of leaves and dirt. Unfortunately, there were some homeless people living in the doorway and some in fact inside the building, so those were scaring people unintentionally, I'm sure, by living there. So we had those we talked to services and they came, and I actually honestly don't know what happened there, but I mean, it seemed to have improved it for the other people. So now it became a brightly lit area that was filled with delightful art. I got tons of emails and texts from people who were totally enthralled at having this renewed building. And it's been going on for 4 years now. So from the people who own the building's perspective, it sort of raised the value of their property and it's kept it in conversation. So people know the address and they know what's going on there. And from the general public, they've had this chance to have completely accessible art 24/7 that changes every 3 months. And anyone can apply. I have a QR code on most of the little walls and people can scan it and send me art. So I've had absolute people who've never done anything before, full professionals. I've had installations for various political themes going on. It's been a very exciting time for art for me in here and all the artists involved. And I think one of the key things that this project allowed me to do as a curator, I discovered, is that I'm not necessarily bothered about trying to sell the art, although if it sells, that's fantastic. And I connect the artist and the interested buyer. And that works wonderfully. But it allows me to put whatever I feel is appropriate or timely into the windows. So then it was coming to a close. There was one more series left to go. And I thought I'm going to do my own installation in there because I hadn't actually put my art in. And So I repainted all of the windows in various shades of from pink through to dark red. You'll see that later. And I got a grant from the Maryland State Arts Council humanities grant. I have to read that every time I say it, which enabled myself and this lady on the right here is Becky McFall. We were the main team. And this is my friend Chris, who's helping us out by painting and installing the railings. So then I decided the best thing, the abortion crisis started to happen in America, which is clearly a women's rights issue. And because I'm English and I tend to listen to the BBC, there is other news around the world from all sorts of women suffering in many different ways across the world, of which, of course, I'd been aware, but I became more sort of hyper-focused on that. And there was the particular event of Mahsa Amini where she was killed for one little lock of her hair. So that kind of tipped me over into wanting this to be a global project. So then I asked women to send me photos of themselves. People, sorry, not women, any gender could be involved in this project. And particularly I wanted males involved because most women understand that we need to be equal in society at whatever level that is. And presumably most of the grey-haired men don't. Otherwise, we wouldn't be stuck in this situation that we're currently in. So I asked people to send me a photograph. And here I have my daughter and her best friend in England. And then I printed it out onto, it's full size, but on 5 pieces of paper and put it onto a coat hanger, which we happen to have in the window. But the symbolism of coat hangers in America and abortion, I won't go into that, but it exists. And then I hung it on the coat hanger, having spent many days trying to figure out what tape would hold it together and the various temperatures that it was under. So this was to symbolize that women aren't equal in society and they're not in control of their bodies. So that was a very simple premise and it worked incredibly well. This is myself and Becky in our in my kitchen trying to figure out how to make the tape work with the Epson printer, which we managed to have 3 of them. Get through 3 of them, we killed them. So this is the starting point. People started to send us photos and I started matching them up. You can see our poster there, designed by Jack Hornady. That's the minutes. Sorry, I've got a while to go. Anyway, I'll flick through. So as we got more and more community members involved, more and more pictures appeared in the window. We refreshed it twice a week. This was an LED that we refreshed every day with information from around the world. And this is as the windows gradually filled up, we would push them back so that we became a big supportive, 1,000 people ended up in the windows. I also briefly got involved with the Women Life Freedom for Iran group and did a whole series of, there's 52 people involved in each window front of 6 windows. This is all the Iranians and I had receptions just for them. We got on Iranian TV, we got on the local TV here in DC, WETA, and we got in the newspapers. That's a few overview pictures of what it looked like at night. And then this is us in the Washington Post. So this is a project, and this is where I put it somewhere else. This is in the Athenaeum in Virginia. It's a project that I got people from all around the world sending me their photos. I'd love it to go more viral. I mean, we could have, filled the windows more. I'd like to do it in other cities because I think it's a very simple premise. And what's most powerful, and the point I really wanted to get to, I'm sorry, there's a lot of information, is the grassroots conversations where I was going to talk to people about giving me their photos and their responses. And just one simple quick story that when we had the Iranian reception, I always had the backdrop there so I could get a photo and, include anybody who wasn't involved in the project. And I said to a couple of people in the room, I was going, hey, do you want to put your photo in? And they're like, no, I can't put my photo in. I have family back in Iran. And that's just a really strong premise. And I also had really difficulty, like I always wanted to balance the windows between black and white, male and female, abled, I'm not sure if disabled is the right word, sorry, pets, children, like I wanted it to be everybody in each window. And it's very hard to do that. It was very hard to get hold of Hispanic people who were happy to feel that they would have their photo taken and they could sign a waiver. They didn't want to do that. They were just like, no, I'm not doing that. I'm not getting involved. And even though they were legal and they had green cards, so it really emphasized how hard it was to get like a really cross section of society who were happy to feel safe and be exposed, even if it's a half photo with no name on it. So I'd like to leave it there. And if anybody would like this project in their town or city, please contact me, because I'm very happy to come and facilitate that. Thank you.
Wow, Kirsty, thank you so much. And I just put in the chat, I really appreciate you, talking about a lot of immigrant communities feeling a lot of vulnerability with being shown that, and especially now is going to be even more exasperated. And it makes our processes sometimes exclusive when they're not trying to be. So I'm glad that you, talked about that. And that project is incredible. Definitely some great movement in the chat. All right, last not least, we have Elsa Marie. So excited to hear from you. Go for it.
Hi, everyone. Good evening from Singapore. It's actually almost 2 in the morning. You might hear my clock go off in a while. So I started on this journey around 12 years ago after a horrific gang rape of a young woman on a bus in Delhi. And that led me to launch Safe City, a civic tech platform for anonymous reporting. And our mission through our nonprofits in India and the US Red Dot Foundation is to end violence against women and girls through crowdsourced data, community engagement, and institutional accountability. So we've spoken a lot about how women feel in public spaces, but really, we are talking about sexual and gender-based violence, which is a global pandemic. And it affects 1 in 3 women on an average. And it affects them not just physically, but also emotionally and mentally. The worst thing is that 80% do not trust the system, and therefore they do not report these crimes or these incidents. In my country, India, for example, most of it is a crime. And what are we talking about? It's a whole spectrum of abuse that ranges from nonverbal forms like staring, leering, ogling, to verbal forms, sexual invites, catcalling, harassment, to physical forms of touching, groping, stalking, and then the most serious forms of assault, rape, murder, kidnapping, human trafficking, and so on and so forth. And a lot of it is normalized on a daily basis, and it is accepted as part of our daily routine, which is why also the silence is pretty difficult to break. So what we are trying to do with Safe City is make the invisible visible. It is a very simple format, less than 2 minutes to report on a web app or on an Android or an iOS phone. It's in multiple languages. We ask you to share what happened to you, where it happened, the date and time. And all these stories are then geotagged. So you can see it zoomed into New York at the moment, and all these red bubbles with numbers on them are the number of stories in that location. So you can zoom in, filter the data, check out what's happening in your neighborhood. And right now we have data from more than 80 countries. We are the largest crowd map on this topic in the world. And you can use this analysis to actually make better decisions for your own safety. And it's completely anonymous. It's in line with GDPR. We made sure that you don't have to give your name, your email, your social media. We're not even tracking IP addresses. And this is the 3rd iteration of our app. So in this iteration, we have focused a lot on the UI UX with an empathy layer, because we had feedback from survivors saying that even though it was anonymous and that somebody was reporting from the comfort of their home, they still felt it was very lonely. And so we've tried to walk with them through the tech in this journey of reporting. And we have data, like I said, from multiple countries, but I just want to zoom in. Why is this data important? So if we try to solve the problem, first we have to understand what the problem is. And 80 or 90% of people don't report. So I'm just going to take one state in India where we are doing work with the police in Haryana. It's in North India. It's a highly patriarchal state. It's where a lot of women report different forms of gender-based violence. What we are seeing in our data set for Haryana is 90% who've reported on our site are talking about public space violence. About 10% or so are talking about domestic violence or intimate partner violence. We have a majority of women reporting, but overall in our global data set, we now have about 10% men reporting violence. Have they reported to the police? Definitely not. And why were they targeted for this attack? Definitely gender. Which age group is reporting a lot more on our site is the younger age group. Maybe they are more tech savvy. And we spoke about nightlife, right? But the peak that we see in our data set is actually 12 noon to 2 p.m. and 5 to 7 p.m. So it's happening in broad daylight. And when I talk about it to urban planners, they actually are taken aback because that's not necessarily their lived reality. Most cities are planned by men for men, and they're not taking into account the lived realities of women. We spoke a little bit about transport earlier, and these two peaks match when women are out and about in public spaces. So if we look at what's showing up in the qualitative part of our data, they're talking about walking, they're talking about buses or the metros, and these incidents are happening in and around these spaces, right? So what do you do with this data? So with the police, for example, we are now we are helping them rethink the way they police. We are first of all helping them think about the lived realities of women and then going into the communities to talk to these women. So taking the policing to them rather than expecting them to come to the police station to report. All our cities are highly surveilled through CCTV cameras, but CCTV footage is often used to prove that the crime has happened. Here we are saying we have location-based data, time of day and day of week patterns. So why can't you monitor from your control room? And they also have an audio facility from that they can make an announcement from their control room. So the police don't have to be physically present in that space to even make an announcement. So, just trying to match the data with how they can better implement policies is really the systems change aspect that we are talking about. But the big part is about the community. The community has a role to play, and the community has also the role in recommending solutions. So the very first slide that you saw was at one of the hotspots, which was near a tea stall, a highly male dominated area. If you've been to India, there are little kiosks on the side of the road where men gather, have their cup of tea, and the male gaze is constant, right? So when that came up in our crowd map, we asked the girls, what would you like to do? And they said, we want the staring and the loitering to stop because it was intimidating them. How do you make it stop? So we partnered with an art collective, and there was this long wall near the tea stall, and this lady helped us paint the feelings of the women on the wall. And she put over there, like, don't stare with your eyes, look with your heart. We won't be intimidated by your gaze. And there were a lot of staring eyes painted on the wall, staring back at the men. And that had an immediate effect where the community was put on notice, especially the tea stall owner. And for the first time, they realized that, this was not acceptable. So I think when you know that your community has your back, it increases the confidence of women. And how can our data be used? Individuals can use it to make better choices for safety. It's not about avoiding areas, but really understanding and being situationally aware so that you can have better responses. So a lot of women walk around with various safety devices, from SOS apps to pepper sprays to safety pins. And we are saying, if you knew what is happening in that particular neighborhood, maybe you might have better strategies to respond to it. But the most important is your community. How can you mobilize them, organize them to have your back, but also to take an interest in getting institutions to, be the change? And we've seen that happen in Brazil and many other countries outside of India, where in Brazil, they got streetlights fixed, they had police patrols changed, they got the mayor's office involved, they identified a gas station as one of a possible human trafficking zones. In Kenya, they identified schools as a hotspot where teachers needed to be trained. They introduced safeguarding policies for children. They engaged religious leaders to talk to men and boys. In the Philippines, the mayor of Quezon City actually endorsed the app, invited her community to report, and her barangay captains would respond in real time. Say they noticed stalking was an issue, they would host a workshop on stalking and what were the resources available from the community. So for the community by the government, and they found that there was an increase in access to these resources and actually use of these resources. So we can strengthen systems if we know how to work together. And for our work, we've received a shout out from the UN Secretary General and also Secretary Hillary Clinton, who called our app a tech for good. We have impacted and improved the lives of more than 1.5 million people. And I invite you to take a look at our app and start mapping incidents in your community and do something about it. Check out what's going on, and let's make every city safer, every road and street safe for women and girls to walk down and not feel afraid of their lives, for their lives. Thank you.
Beautiful, Elsa Marie. Thank you so much. That is incredible work and so important. Next up, our speakers are from Sydney, Australia, with Transport for New South Wales, and they'll be sharing a little bit more about their Safer Cities program. Let's get into it.
Hi everyone, my name is Brooke Wharton. I'm the Director of Vibrancy in Transport for New South Wales, based in Sydney, Australia. And joining me is Gisela Velasco, our Senior Place and Public Life Officer in our team, and Ella Dunn, the Place Programs Lead. And we're going to be talking to you about one of our programs, which is called Safer Cities, and it focuses on how do we help improve perceptions of safety, particularly for women, girls, and gender diverse people. Before I get started, I would like to acknowledge country. We recognize that many of the transport routes and pathways we use today follow the ancient songlines, trade routes, and ceremonial paths that First Nations peoples have traveled for tens of thousands of years. These routes carry their stories, cultural practices, and deep knowledge that Aboriginal women have passed down through generations, ensuring the survival and strength of their communities. As we advocate for women's safety and empowerment through our work, we are committed to upholding the cultural and spiritual connections that Aboriginal peoples have with the lands, waters, and skies of New South Wales. So we work in a part of Transport for New South Wales that focuses on improving active transport connections and enabling vibrant public spaces and transport hub precincts. Our Vibrancy team uses a cross-disciplinary and collaborative approach, utilizing a range of different techniques and processes to create long-term systems change. Our approach includes programs, partnerships, and policy, especially with local government agencies, international and national best practice. We're always looking globally for what we can deliver locally. Storytelling and community building, systems change, pilot to legacy funding programs. Through this approach, we seek to empower and enable local councils, communities, and other state government agencies. So the Safer Cities program, we've aligned the aims to the United Nations Safer Cities for Girls program, which are to increase women, girls, and gender diverse people's safety and access to public spaces, including streets and open space, increase their active and meaningful participation in urban development and governance, and increase their autonomous mobility in the city. I just want to note that while we refer to women, girls, and gender diverse people collectively as a part of the program, we recognize that they're not a homogeneous group, and there are a variety of intersections that affect their perceptions of safety and their experiences of cities and towns. I will pass over to Ella to talk through the case for change for this program.
Thank you, Brooke. When we first started working on the program, we realised that we didn't have any data to show us how people felt about their safety in New South Wales. So we ran a statewide survey asking everyone over 16 on their perceptions of safety, and we received over 5,500 responses. What we heard is that almost 60% of women feel unsafe in New South Wales during the night, which is about twice the rate of feeling unsafe to men. For women, feeling safe matters more than the quickest or most convenient route. And 3 in 4 women would walk more if they felt safer in public spaces. The survey indicates that an individual's gender can impact their perceptions of safety when navigating our cities and towns, and that plays a key role in shaping their transportation choices and how they move around the city. More broadly, research has established that women's travel patterns are distinctly different to men's. Due to gender divisions of labour and care, women tend to have more complex and multi-purpose trips on both active and public transport. Taking these into consideration, our program seeks to understand how these differences can be addressed and how public spaces and transport hub precincts can better enable safe and accessible movement. Every project we deliver through the program is guided by these principles. Every project we've done through the program is designed with community. We encourage precinct level thinking and connections to, from, and within precincts. We are all about piloting big ideas to build a legacy by evaluating and researching. And lastly, we have a focus on the first and last mile and ensuring journeys are safe, accessible, and welcoming from start to finish. Together with our partners, we've engaged with over 23,000 people across New South Wales, and we've done this through a variety of methods. Notably, we have done a lot of workshops, which are walking workshops through precincts, where we bring community members and key stakeholders and decision makers together to walk a route through a precinct, and for them to give us feedback on how they feel in each space and what they'd like to see implemented through the program. And this has been really effective to understand the needs at a very place-based and local level. I'm now going to pass over to Gisela to talk more in detail about some of our projects.
Thanks, Ella. Through the engagement we have conducted as part of the Safer Cities program, we have heard some of the key factors that help women, girls, and gender diverse people feel safe. So we've heard that places that are well lit and well cared for, as well as places that have appropriate wayfinding and signage, color and public art and activation are really critical for supporting perceptions of safety. Active surveillance does come up quite a bit, but it can have different impacts on different groups, but it does come up during discussions and engagements. This is one project that we delivered in partnership with Central Coast Council in one of their key town centers. So Central Coast Council is a regional local government located about an hour or two away from Sydney, and they wanted to improve perceptions of safety in the Gosford city centre while also stimulating economic activity and a sense of vibrancy. Through the partnership with Central Coast, we delivered a variety of interventions identified by local women during the engagement, and these same women were then asked to participate in evaluating the project for its impact on their feelings of safety. A cornerstone of their project was delivering a program of events called Good Time Summer, which had 99 events and activations over a 6-week period. There was an increase of perceptions of safety by 59% overall, with the community expressing support for the project. In order to continue the legacy of the program and share the learnings outside of our organization and our partners, we also developed new resources for the Great Places Toolkit, which we released in October 2024. These resources were developed to align with the process of improving perceptions of safety in cities and towns, and also engaging with women, girls, and gender diverse people. And you can scan the QR code to view the resources. Transport for New South Wales also leads the Women's Safety Charter, which is a cross-government partnership to improve safety in the public domain. So Transport is partnering with the New South Wales Women's Safety Commissioner and the Department of Planning, Housing and Infrastructure to bring together businesses, government, peak groups, and not-for-profit organizations to take collective action to improve the safety of all women, girls, and gender diverse people in the public domain. Well, that's it for our presentation, but we will leave you with a question to kick off the discussion. How can you incorporate gender-sensitive placemaking into your projects or work? Thank you so much for the opportunity to present about our program. If you have any questions at all, please reach out to the email on screen, or we will also share a link to our program so that you can learn more about our work. Thank you so much.
Next up, we have Ulfi, hailing from Jakarta, Indonesia, where she's taken a little bit of that framework from the Safer Cities program, but really made it her own with her project. Let's get into her work.
Hi everyone, I'm Ulfi, a transport analyst and active transport advocate that's based in Jakarta, Indonesia. And as someone who wears several hats, for this topic, I would wear the hat as a member of Women on the Move Asia and how it brings me to connect my project currently I'm doing. So, Women on the Move Asia is a platform dedicated to empowering women in the transport sectors by facilitating knowledge exchange, networking, and also collaboration. And at the moment, we have over 200 members across the globe. And other than our online discussion, we called Connect and Chat sessions where we talk about transport and urban issues. We also organize an offline activities. And for the past 3 years, I've been co-organizing John's Walk with local communities in different cities. And I assume you're familiar with John's Walk. So it's a community-led walking inspired by Jens Jacobs. And each year we will publish reports to share the insight from each walks. And happy to share that this May we held 21 walks across 7 countries. So we also launched some products like the TUAS expert database and the Feminist Transport Hub websites in collaborations with our sister alliance, Women Mobilize Women and Women in Motions. And the idea is to create spaces where women can showcase their work in transport and also connect with others. And yes, through this this network platform, I had the opportunity to join a fellowships this year, and which eventually led me to my current research project, the one that I'll share with you today. So yes, walkability is not only about infrastructures like sidewalks and crossings, but also about whether people feel safe and comfort walking in these areas. And research indicates that women often experience heightened level of fears, anxiety, and real risk of harassments or violence when walking to, from, or within the transit areas of the dock. And as a cities where women make up half of all public transport users, it is essential for Jakarta to pay close attention to their specific needs and concerns when it comes to their mobility, as these fears limit their ability to walk freely and safely, especially after dark. And it's not just a safety and security issues, but it's a barrier to opportunity. Even one study found that 31% of women have turned down job offers because of safety concerns in transportation in Jakarta. So the so the project I name Ensuring Safety and Security for Women After Dark respond to this by wanting to transform everyday transit areas around the public transport, like bus stops, pedestrian bridges, and underpasses, into a safe and secure place for all. And the approach to this issue is through placemaking. So, not just designing safer spaces, but doing so with communities. Because for me, it's a process of empowerment and reclaiming the place with women from different backgrounds who often disadvantaged with the fear in the transit areas of public transport. And we began by listening through a survey and a focus group discussions where participants map their fears and share their experience. We then co-identified the transit areas that concern them most. And yes, but we didn't stop there. Together with the participants, we did a walking activity called Research Picnic. So it's a visit to this location to observe and doing discussion with them with the picnic settings after the walk. And yes, there are two also upcoming agendas for this project. We'll move into a co-designing for these transit areas, and also want to bring the concepts to the local government in the hope with the hope that they can be implemented. And also, this is like some initial findings from the surveys and also from the FGDs. And yes, I assume that harassment would be the biggest issues, but participants point more often to criminal and violent acts. And when we ask about the factors that make places feel unsafe and insecure for them, they mention several things, um, like the presence of thugs or beggars, but interestingly, also the lack of people, like the place that too empty felt equally unsafe for them. And this is also the tools that I developed. So I also developed a digital observation form for participants to use during the research picnic so they could document and assess the areas they pass and uploading photos and comments there. And with the hope that this process gave them a sense of ownerships and over the space. So it's kind of like a way of saying this place matters to me. So what is the next steps? Like I mentioned before, there are two upcoming agendas. But first, I need to continue to analyze the data collected from our surveys and also research picnics and also focus group discussion. And then we will continue it with the co-design process with the participants. And of course, the biggest challenge would be convincing local government to actually implement it. So it's me like on that. So yes, so this project is not about fixing spaces for women, but transforming it with them. So, because when communities have a hand in reshaping their everyday spaces, they don't just gain safer transit areas, but they also gain sense of belonging, empowerment, and also the ownerships. And designing with vulnerable groups like women from different backgrounds, it could create a cities that are better for everyone because when vulnerable groups like us feel they belong, the city belongs to all of us. So yes, that's all from me and let's keep in touch.
All of you, thank you for taking the time to share about your stories. I know that I'm feeling like a lot of fire, so I definitely want to get us started into our breakout rooms.
And also to see the artwork that Lily has been
Of course.
during the live recording.
Easy.
All right, sorry, Elsa Marie was in the middle, but it was true. That was some great sessions. I hope you all got a lot out of it. I know that I did. Without further ado, bam, bam, I want to make sure that Lily gets to showcase her masterpiece before we all hop off.
So visual notes is just a way to just like capture what people are saying in time, like at the same time, like people are talking. So let's zoom in and go through each one of the speakers. We first start with Daniela, like Quito, Ecuador, like she was talking about the class and privilege, how the policies were just not like really seeing women, and she looked into market, and just like the main element of her discussion was care. Then we went to Nourhan. She talked about the three pillars of her conversation was just community, women, and urban design, and mostly it was just mobility for feminist governments and the cities failing women, and there are ways that we need to implement to make cities inclusive and include women. Then we talk about Farhana. Like Farhana start talking about just like public toilets, bathrooms, and so people avoid drinking water, like women, and just analyzing women foot traffic, and just showing it to people and male like users. They understood how impactful it is to just invest in toilets, public toilets, their maintenance, and that also is, like a success model showed them that this would lead to economic development. Then we talked, like Christy started talking about her project, like the window, repurposing the building and accessible like public art to everyone, and talk about woman life freedom movement and how she was inspired by Iranian women and put them on hangers, those artworks. And that was kind of like a grassroots conversation, as she called it. Then as Marie, she talked about just like people, like women, being afraid to talk about harassment, not knowing what is it exactly or not saying about it. And she came up with her platform, Safe City, to and just through analysis, she understood women during this like even daytime are more harassed than night times. That is general assumption, like 12 to 2 p.m. or in the evening. And those report and the cycle of community, like the data informing community and the institutions and taking action for it, was just like the way to make it like work for people to pay attention, to be able to eliminate that, or just not necessarily eliminate, but just bring more awareness to this issue. So next we have Yulfi, Women on the Move, which they talk about transforming transportation in Asia. They talk about walkability and gathering data on women, where they walk and how they use the space. And they specifically focus on women after dark, how they are using the spaces, and the spaces that you don't see many people are kind of scarier for women to use. And what they come with is co-designing with women and understanding their viewpoints and the elements they see useful in the public spaces. Then we have Safer Cities program, which you saw the video of them. These three wonderful women, they talk about three sections of their work, like survey, workshops, and toolkit. They started with a survey, choosing what kind of transportation you want to use to travel between spaces, and they find the elements that ends up with safer routes for women. Then they do some workshops to gather more insights on what elements of public space can be used to activate these spaces and make them more women-friendly, like wayfinding, lighting, greeneries, more vision and just like visibility. And then finally, they have come up with a toolkit. You can check them out on their website and learn more about them.
That was beautiful, Lily. Thank you so much. This is incredible to see. And yes, we will definitely be sharing this out along with the recording for everyone afterwards of this conversation. And again, please do feel free to share it with your networks. Takeaways that you got from your breakouts. I know Nourhan has to step up, but some of the things that I heard were really interesting. Surveillance should be by community from that group. She talked about the price that we pay because of gender. So a lot of women presenting, people do not do physical activity in public spaces for fear of their safety, and that some people do organize just to attack women who are doing physical activities. And I mean, if anybody's gone for a run as a woman, I'm sure that sounds very familiar. And then also she talked about making sure that as architects and designers that we are also, this is all intersectional work, as I'm sure everybody on this call knows. So making sure that we also are keeping an eye out for those that are, being targeted for racial racial, neural abilities, disabilities. And then I got a chance to briefly join Elsa Marie's, and I'll give you the floor if you would like to share, or anybody else from your group from that. But I loved, and what I said was going to be my favorite takeaway was, she said, it's easy. This is easy to do if we consider, those who are being impacted, if we are able to have these conversations, identify, the behaviors and what we're looking out from people who are, making women especially feel unsafe, that if we're able to characterize those behaviors as a community, we'll be more able to identify that and, step in if we need to. But also as designers, we're able to be planning, okay, if this is the kind of behavior that we're seeing, we can plan, the spaces for that. Elsa Marie or anybody from the group, do you guys want to tap in and say anything?
I was saying that the hardest thing that I've ever done is get women to break the silence around their experiences. But once you have the data flowing in, then it's easy to identify the problem, mobilize your community, find solutions. Policing is one solution, it's not the only solution. And I've seen the magic when the community comes up with what they think will work. And that has been amazing, and it's, in my view, more sustainable as well. So yeah, that's what I want to say.
Beautiful. And then Daniela, do you want to share anything from your breakout room quickly?
Yeah, very quickly. We talk about the importance of women community leaders and how they, when they're, part of the process in a meaningful way, they bring their care viewpoint to the process, and that helps with conflict resolution and helps with, understanding maybe the other and making it easier to do a public space intervention that might be, difficult because there are a lot of conflicting issues between communities and leaders, but usually women leaders are really helpful in those processes.
Beautifully said. Farhana?
Yeah, we actually talked about how our system works. So what we have discussed, like a toilet or an infrastructure like toilet, it can work or it can provide the service for toilet, but at the same time, as I mentioned to the people who join there, it can work as a place where people can feel safe, people can relieve themselves. At the same time, sometimes we have provided data to police because we have cameras adjacent to our toilets. As we monitor, as we try to ensure safety to our customer, those places doesn't have data at our police department. So if anything happened closer to our facility, we have given that data. So we are helping authorities in different ways as well. So we cannot think of a place or an infrastructure which is just providing only one service. But if our policies and if we can have partnership and collaboration with each other, we can help each other to sustain and to make it safe.
Beautifully said as well. And then Kirsty, you want to take us home?
Yeah, we chatted with another lady, Maura from Baltimore, and a couple of others about the difficulties of doing these projects without any funding and how you get funding for them, and sort of the technical logistical sides of things, like actually how you make that happen even once it's up and it's doing its wonderful thing, and how do you maintain that. So that was really the areas that we
very important. Yeah, no, I love that. Well, thank you so much. I mean, I'm coming off of this feeling geeked and inspired. Thank you all for just stepping up and showing us that, number one, we matter, right? I feel like that's the biggest takeaway. And I'm glad that we were able to find, community in this space and in these times. Thank you to our speakers. Thank you to each of you for joining us and being part of this community and this space that we all held together. I know that I feel held, so I appreciate you all. Thank you. Thank you. Have a beautiful day. Make sure that you guys are signed up for Placemaking US notifications. Follow Placemaking US on social media for anything, and you all, since you registered, should get the email recap with all the information and Lily's incredible drawing for you to share and the recording. But with that, adieu, farewell, take care, cuídense, hasta luego, gracias.
Ciao.
Bye everyone.